Oh. All right, in the future, we will not do 2 Supreme Court cases in a row, okay? Especially longer-ish ones. I think these are longer ones, right? What do you think is like the longest? Gladiator 2 trailer? Can you make a sequel to that movie? Is that possible? Okay, hold on. 18 emails. I did all my messages. I just have to run these down real quick. Okay, don't care about this. RFK is wrong about DPT vaccines, unsurprisingly. And he links some study that he says he misquoted. Okay. Michael knows. What is this? We're looking forward to having a blah, blah, blah. They drink while they do this show. Whatever's the lightest drink you've got. I'm a lightweight. Smiley face. Am I allowed to say that I like give me cocktails? Cocktails aren't girly, right? Is it just girly cocktails are girly? Like, is an old fashioned considered a cocktail? It is. Yeah, okay. How many pages left in Chevron? I think I got like 10 or 15 or something. It's not many. Schedule maintenance. Don't care about that. More shirts arriving today. Hell yeah. Archive. Boom. 10. What is this? Okay. Wait, hello? Damn. Wait, what is this car? Oh, this is the Lotus? I didn't know the back was so short. Oh, the Lotus Elite. Oh, Lotus is the make. No, the manufacturer. How much does this one cost? Man, some guy sent me an email and he's like, listen, bro, you don't care about any of this shit. You just need to go in and buy the most souped up fucking like Honda Civic ever and you'll have more fun with it. I almost might agree. Enter a valid email address. Why is it saying my email address is not valid? Hold on. Oh, 1 second. You don't have periods in your... There's no way it would do that, right? No. Is there a space at the end? No. Oh, that time it worked. I'm almost positive I have an account here, but okay. Quick question. From Twitter alone, it feels like a large percentage of Marxists/socialists are trans. Why do you think that is? Transgender as a sexual identity got co-opted by younger people as an aesthetic or a form of expression So there are a lot of people who are in those crowds who ID is like non-binary or whatever, because that's the way they choose to express themselves. So you're going to find a higher proportion of people, and a very high proportion of people in those crowds will identify themselves as such. Do we care about this? No, no, no. Okay. What do you think is the distribution of a genuine versus pretend people? You mean people that do the trans aesthetic stuff versus like actual like people with transgender, like as a, I don't know if you call it a sexual identity or what. My guess online is probably like 98-2 would be my guess. But oh my God. Boom, 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 boom. Just need to confirm it's you. Yes. Okay. How's life today in the DGG world? Wait. Save. Boom. Nice. Forethought hate thread. Uh-oh. Oh no. Please don't say they... One sec. What's your full take on Bernie? Bro, it's 2024. I don't have a take on Bernie. Real quick, I hope the Civil War starts, dude, in the United States, just so I can go after web developers. No, why do some people have links on pages? Like when you hover over it, it has all the properties that you would expect of an ordinary HTML link. But they do some really weird JavaScript to launch the next page. So I can't actually right click and open it in a new window because you have to, why, can somebody tell me what is deficient in HTML in 2024 that you can't have a link using HTML? Why do you have to do, why do you have to use JavaScript to have a link? So, can somebody explain that to me? It's usually Ajax. Live loading is cancer. Oh, nice. And since they don't even turn gray, so I don't even know if I've clicked the link before. Okay. Based. It's so based. Oh, I read that wrong. Holy shit. Okay. 1 sec. Oh, these are older. Okay. Based. Okay. Jesus. Okay. What? I did I try to get tested every few months to make sure I'm not dying of STDs. I don't know what. There's a couple of these that I've never heard of anybody getting ever, but I'm sure they exist. The two big ones that most people talk about if you're sexually active are gonorrhea and chlamydia. Those ones have like they have like a huge transmission rate. I want to say like it's like 60% plus in just one interaction with somebody if they have either of those. Get the fuck out of here. But there are two that you also pretty frequently get tested for. One is syphilis, which I've heard of people dying of it in the brains in the past, but I've never in my life heard of somebody getting it. And the other one is, what is this called? Like it's got some weird name. It sounds like the name of a spider. Trichomoniasis? Moniasis? I've never heard of like, I've never heard of anybody getting either of these two STDs. Like, have any of you guys know anybody in real life that's had syphilis? Does that happen? This lab also didn't test for HSV, but they test for HIV. How weird. But we have no AIDS. Good job. Okay. Well, that's good. All right. Are you ever concerned about skin cancer / melanoma? Not really. I don't really go outside that much. Okay, what is this? My God. She's a yapper. Join your community after watching for nearly a decade. Since 1996, when they did welfare reform, there were a million restrictions put on welfare, which they now call TANF. There is a lifetime limit on the program, and it is 60 months. So 5 years total of your life, no matter how many kids you have, that you can receive welfare. Wait, is that true? Jesus. Okay. All right. TANF. Rolling for you to read my dono. Chess box. In YouTube? I don't even see a dono up. Did you talk about the sketch stuff yet? No, I'll probably talk about it tomorrow night with Dan on anything else. Oh, and XQC will be there. Or supposedly. Oh, 10 minutes ago. Much love. With all the recent tech principles and new directions, do you ever think of going over old content on stream? Notes for past Destiny from present Destiny would be delicious content. Maybe. But the thing is, there's so many like current people to critique. And if I go over my past stuff, I'm just creating like a whole bunch of like stupid... Like, it's just going to be... Like, there are already people that like clip me from like 8 years ago and like, oh, look, you've been bought out because now you disagree with yourself. Like 8 years ago, I was like, okay. Let's see. Okay, don't care about this. Let's see. Since you seemed so complimentary of Gorsuch's opinion, you might consider watching this video he did for the National Constitution Center. Personally, I found it one of the more enlightening views on the Constitution and Gorsuch's view on the Constitution. Maybe we'll watch this. How do you think they get this bokeh in the back? Do you think that this is done with AI? Or not AI, I'm sorry. Fuck, I just fell into the modern trap of calling every fucking thing done on a computer AI. Do you think that they use software to blur this? Or do you think that this is authentically, there's just that much distance and the f-stop is that low? Because it doesn't look real to me, yeah. Opportunity to discuss Chevron with Oregon Supreme Court justices. Hi, I'm a 3L law student at blah, blah, blah. I'm going to join and listen to this. I both agree and disagree with you in regard to this, but listening to me, a couple of which are state Supreme Court justices. My admin law / statutory interpretation professor is a retired justice. Oh, retired, not current then. And another who is currently on the court is, Actually, this would be an awesome conversation. If either or both of them would like to chat, yeah, that would be awesome. I'd have challenging questions for them. Not in any sense a debate / screaming match, but I'd love to hear them give strong takes on both sides, question mark. How do you deal with people like Paul's ego being so smug in a conversation? I can't watch that conversation on YouTube without pausing it from pain. Usually in like conversations like that, like the debating part is kind of autopilot because I'm not going everything new. So I'm really just thinking a lot about the meta conversation. Like, what do I need to do to control the flow of this? Like, how is this going to look when it comes out later? What can I do that wouldn't be too mean? It's just like a bunch of thoughts like that. Since I'm more focused on that than anything else, maybe it helps to distract me a bit, but I've always been a really patient person. That's why that's why I got promoted out of that casino job so fast. It's because I could deal with the drunks on night shift and not lose my fucking mind. I'm not sure why. I just have that. I'm just a patient person by nature. I don't know why. Running this. Okay, give you some info on this. Blah, 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 blah. What are we doing? Most physicians in residency, i.e. when doctors specialize in a given field, read journals and are often PhDs in the same field. While it could be expected that physicians are only clinicians, to provide the best available care, research is necessary. How else would you know the outcomes of treatments and if the care you are providing is up to standards? New research is often very direct to the clinic as well. For example, if a new blah, 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 in Sweden specifically, there's a lot of distrust of MDs on the internet, probably due to the American sentiment against big pharma and the opioid epidemic in the U.S. Okay. Okay, cool. Boom. All right. What's your favorite type of naan to have with curry? Like garlic naan is awesome, right? But like even ordinary naan is good. I don't think it matters. Well, I'd prefer more seasoned, but I'll eat any naan. Hell yeah, I'll fuck a naan up. You buying the Elise / Elira? Nope. No plans to yet. Can you please raise your volume a little? I'm looking at my bar. It looks fine to me. Eat shit and die. What country is the number one destination of Trump being president? Probably whoever has the lowest taxes. I'm not sure though. Okay, boom. Boom, boom. All right. Being a progressive who tries to find the state with the lowest taxes is such a bad look. Okay. So as easy as including an href attribute in the link element so the browser can recognize it. Can you href JavaScript? I don't know that much about programming, okay? And HTML is programming, my friends. It is programming. If you've ever used Dreamweaver or any click and drag web page creator in your entire life, you are a programmer, all right? Actually, if you've ever done like click and drag on a page before to make a website, you're a programmer. If you've ever published it and put it on the internet, that makes you a software engineer, okay? Don't let anybody forget it. In fact, it should go on your resume, to be quite honest. Okay, I'm opening packages and then you can listen to this. How much do you think the conversation around Biden's debate stutters are legit versus just trying to push a narrative? Everyone forgets how the man spoke the next morning. I mean, in some ways, it's like you death spiral by pushing and reinforcing things that you think matter to other people, which also makes them matter to other people. But I mean, in other ways, it is a legit concern, right? One thing that I'm really interested in, hold on. I don't know how. I don't know how or why this happens, but somehow conservatives set the media agenda for everybody. Like they dictate the things that we're supposed to care about. I don't know how. I don't know why. I'm not sure. What do you think about Save the Vote Act, and why would Biden try and block it? Wouldn't you want proven citizens to vote in elections? What is the Save the Vote Act? Freedom to Vote Act, is it this? No, 2021. The SAVE Act would protect and preserve the right of American citizens to vote by requiring states to obtain proof of citizenship in person when registering an individual to vote and requiring states to remove non-citizens from existing voter rolls. Does the federal government even have the right to do that? Time, manner, and place. Oof. When we go over the United States, when we start doing U.S. stuff, we are doing a full Constitution reading. I think it's important. We should. I don't know if the federal government is even allowed to dictate to states stuff like that. Like, I'm curious what the constitutionality of this legislation would even be. But if they have like a fully written piece of legislation, I would imagine that they ran it by like some legal person or something. I would imagine. I'm not sure. New socks. Wool socks are the best thing ever. Okay. Holy shit. No more cotton socks. I got a lot of them. Based. Based. There's no way states could literally let anyone vote and the feds could do absolutely nothing about it. Yeah, that's my understanding for how it works, but would love to hear your opinion on it. Should non-citizens be... Well, when you ask me that question, there's multiple layers to that question. So the first question would be, do I personally believe that illegal immigrants should be allowed to vote as like a moral stance? There's two big conflicting interests. The first one is, obviously, if you're not here legally, do I want somebody who's in this country illegally to be voting against me, right? So let's say I want candidate A, they want candidate B, and now they're voting against me and they're not even in this country legally. Do I want their vote to count? I mean, my feeling would be, well, you're not even a U.S. citizen. Why the fuck would you have a say in our electoral system if you didn't come here legally? On one end, I'd be weighing that, and then on the second end, and then on the countervailing end would be, well, if you're in this country, you're affected and impacted by the policies, regardless. So you have an interest here, so you're voting to represent those interests. So it's a matter of, like, I guess, you're voting to represent your interests, but should you even be allowed to represent your interests since you're not a legal citizen? I think I could probably be debated out of it, but I think I lean towards, like, on a moral level, I don't think an illegal immigrant should be voting in federal elections. I think you can make stronger arguments for voting in some types of local elections, but... Oh. We got soap. Liquid soap. Always liquid soap. Okay? From a legal level, I think a state has the right to determine, I think a state should have a right to determine who's allowed to vote in their elections. If enough citizens in a particular state want to say that they're citizens, or they're the people in that state, citizens or not, should be allowed to vote, I mean, I think a state should have a right to make that decision, even if I disagree with it. I mean, states have the right to run their elections in the way that they see fit. I think I largely agree with that delegated role. So, personally, I think I would say no, but legally, I would support a state doing, I guess, what they'd want to. What the fuck is in here? Oh, this is the speaker for downstairs. And that's boring shit over there. Don't care. All right. Hasan on media literacy.
I do think with the best of our ability, I do think with on the topic of media literacy, with the increase in content, the opportunity for media literacy, in my opinion, goes down actually, right? Like the vast quantity.
Really explain wool is torture and every other piece of clothing. Why wool socks? I don't know if wool is torture or if it's like shitty wool. The thing that I read online is for socks. Wool, it wicks away moisture, so you don't have like smelly, nasty feet, and your and because it wicks away moisture in hot weather, it keeps your feet cool, and then in cold weather, it's decent at insulating, so it keeps your feet hot, and it's just a good material that has like some longevity. I did a whole bunch of reading on socks, and a whole bunch of people feel very strongly that socks should never, ever, ever be cotton, that there's never any point in buying cotton socks. It's either wool, or wool seemed to be the most heavily recommended material for them. Wool doesn't feel good on the upper body. I don't know anything about other, I'm just saying only for socks. Wool is what I saw recommended everywhere. But the, I can't speak to any other type of clothing. I will say for shirts now, though, especially after buying, I bought every single color of these Lululemon undershirts. This isn't one right now. This is a cotton shirt. The synthetic materials for undershirts seems like an obvious win-win, no-brainer. Well, maybe in other temperatures, maybe not good. Whatever material those Lululemon soft jersey undershirts are made out of, bro, even putting on this t-shirt feels horrible. Oh my God. What is the material for this? That was a very roundabout to say no, illegals voting. Why the mental gymnastics? What do you think okay, hold on. That comment was so fucking stupid in so many different ways. That was a roundabout to say no. It wasn't a roundabout. I was giving an explanation for my rationale for my answer. You should try thinking through your answers sometime, okay? Maybe it would be elucidating for you, okay? Number one. Number two, mental gymnastics usually implies when you are doing a whole bunch of work to put together absurd arguments to arrive at a position that you want to have, irrespective of how you get there. I don't feel like any of my argumentation there was completely wild or out of line or anything. I think everything was pretty straightforward. "88% recycled polyester and 12% elastane or elastane. Synthetic materials for clothing are horrible for the environment. The plastic fibers never degrade and end up in the water system and then your bloodstream." Good. I will wear this until my body fully absorbs it. These shirts feel fucking awesome. Oh my God. Wearing cotton after this shit. Whew, these feel so good. Elastane? Okay. Okay. Yes. Our God, Hasan, please talk to us about media literacy. Please.
On factually accurate information to the best of our ability.
I do think with on the topic of media literacy, with the increase in content, the opportunity for media literacy, in my opinion, goes down actually, right? Like the vast quantity of headlines that we consume on a daily basis, or clips, or long form, whatever we're consuming, as that quantity has gone up, I think whatever your understanding is of the media will be applied across the board. Like to have a nuanced take from clip to clip or headline to headline is extremely challenging, and a challenging assumption of society.
Yeah. I think many...
Do you hand wash the wool socks? Something I started reading for taking care of clothes and stuff. So one, ironing is good because it apparently increases the longevity of the clothes. But two, a lot of people do recommend if you don't, a lot of people recommend hanging your clothes to dry. Fuck that. I'm not that intense yet. Okay, we're not doing that shit.
Extremely challenging, and a challenging assumption of society.
Yeah. I think many people don't do that at all, and they don't have that. They just are fed this information. They
might not even know they should do it. Might not even know that one headline is different from another headline.
Yeah, no, that's why I think that we're arriving at one of my major goals is I look at the news and I handhold you through it. Where if you are confused about what's going on in the world, my job, the way I see it is I'm there to be entertaining first and foremost, but also basically tell you here's what the headline says, but here's what is actually going on, and here's what that headline might mean.
This is what I hate this. I hate this so much. Everything Hasan is saying here is 100% correct. That is true what he's saying. That should be your job. But he doesn't do any of this. He doesn't do any of that. People that if you shower and you get in the same clothes afterwards, you might as well. Life pro tip. Save 30 minutes of your time, okay? If you're going to, if you shower and then you change into the same clothes afterwards, save your time by just not showering at all. Don't waste your fucking time, okay? Don't waste your fucking time. Just don't shower. Who the fuck cares? Don't shower. If you're gonna wear the same clothes afterwards, don't waste your fucking time. Don't waste our time. All right.
And sometimes it's the headline is accurate, or the
Is the cat still with you? No. Honey is not my property. It's part of my girlfriend. She travels back and forth with her.
that headline might mean. And sometimes it's the headline is accurate, or the story is completely devoid of any sort of errors or omissions of details, right? But that is what I'm trying to do. That is what I'm trying to do when I look at Fox News. That is what I'm trying to do when I
See, like, I wish that, like, something that I started doing a lot, the thing that encouraged me to start writing more and thinking more about, like, media consumption and how people consume media. I just said the same thing twice. When I say media consumption, what I mean is, like, how do you read a particular thing, and then how do you understand it, or how should you understand it, versus how people consume media. Like, what do most people do, or what are the main follies of most people in consuming media? I consider myself a subject matter expert, okay? And I think that from that position, I think I try to have a more critical view rather than just parroting things that I've seen online. This is why I push so much, or you heard me say over and over again, like, when people say, how do you pick a good source? We'll just read a variety of sources. Like, no, that's an answer that is devoid of thought. Nobody's actually thought through what that means, to read a variety of sources. It doesn't mean anything, people say, right? When you're in Hasan's position or my position, you have the opportunity to engage with a ton of different types of communities and a ton of different types of people and watch them consume media, understand how media cycles work, probably more than almost anybody on the planet, save for actual, like, media pundits that work in mainstream media. And even at that, you have a unique perspective on things because you got more direct engagement with media consumers than even, like, pundits do, because they don't usually engage with media consumers.
But that is what I'm trying to do. That is what I'm trying to do.
So there are much better answers to this question of something that I would say is, when you're trying to see if media is misleading you, something being right or wrong is not usually the important part. If you get into alternative media spaces, especially YouTube, you can just find a lot of stuff that's just wrong, okay? Like the RFKs of the world, just wrong. But the big problem is when you're reading on reporting, things are selectively reported. People choose what things they want to tell you. And you can find things that aren't technically wrong, but they're not really conveying conceptually the most accurate picture, if that makes sense. Like, a really good example was, we watched this the other day. When the immunity thing came out, I think the headlines for, the left-leaning stuff, I think people were saying Trump granted criminal immunity, stuff like that. And I think the Fox News headline was like, fuck, can I find this? Fuck, I don't know if these changed or... The way, like, nothing from what I remember, and I only skimmed these articles, nothing in any of these Fox News articles was incorrect. Oh, so, like, right here, this focus on, like, this top line here. Chief Justice John Roberts says the president enjoys no immunity for his official acts. For his unofficial acts, right? This is, like, true, right? Nothing that's reported in these articles can be untrue or false, but it can still be misleading. People should focus on that more. The reason why you should focus on that more is because the solution is, in order to critically evaluate any particular media source, you have to have some kind of working knowledge of the material at hand, or else you're always just being led around by propagandists like Hasan, But, yeah.
Right. But that is what I'm trying to do. That is what I'm trying to do when I look at Fox News. That is what I'm trying to do when I look at MSNBC, because I have plenty of disagreements with liberals as well as I do with Republicans.
I think the interesting parallel between yourself and the New York Times is that, the New York Times, I open the app every single day and I go straight to Wordle and then I play the spelling bee every day.
That's great.
And I'm in there. And then I'll quickly click on the news tab and I'm like, all right, here's some things that are happening, and I will spend way less time looking at the headlines and the news, but I'm in. Like, you've brought me in, New York Times, you got me, I'm in a news world, right? And I feel like with you, your beginnings were gaming on Twitch. And even still now, there is like you said, you're like having fun, right? Occasionally you do play games.
Yeah.
And then there's a news element as well that, like, it's this interesting thing that, like, the news more so than ever requires this entertainment that may not be a part of it.
So like this thing is a good example in chat. Destiny, doesn't the Trump presidency behavior from CNN disqualify them as a valid source? How do you explain the Charlottesville good people on both sides stuff? I don't know from what platform a conservative can ever launch a factual grievance with any news source ever, but they are allowed to, right? I don't know how they dictate like the media agenda with that, like screeching about Russiagate. For everything you have to say about Russiagate, the Hillary email stuff was like a billion times more egregious, and the Benghazi stuff, right? There were no credible indictments. There was no valuable information turned out from either of those obsessive things that occupied conservative airwaves and brainwaves for years. But somehow, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. So people keep saying like offense versus defense. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll think about it more. I'll think about it more. I'll think about this more because I think it's worth considering.
Like with the New York Times, but it's like right there. It's like you need that too to bring people in.
For sure. I think I do it for not the revenue reasons that New York Times does it for, but instead I do it because I think it allows people to see me in a different light and not as like the serious news guy who's yelling all the time.
So on that topic of like, you know, revenue and business, like the business of streaming, the business also of political commentary, I think it's interesting to break down like what does that look like? Because you brought up NPR at the beginning of the conversation, and I actually think what you do is similar to when I grew up. My brother and like we're like young kids, like when we were in the car with my mom or my dad, he wanted to listen to NPR. And I hated it.
It's lame as hell.
Yeah, it's super lame. And I would make fun of him for it, but he always wanted to listen to it. So I was subject to listening to a lot of it.
Your brother would have been a fan of mine if he was like, you know, if it was.
He was, I mean, my brother's like speech and debate, Model UN.
Oh,
went to law
God.
school.
Okay.
And then abandoned all of it. And went into fashion. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oof, he said debate. That's a trigger word for Hasan. Be careful.
Yeah. but I grew up like, you know, he introduced me to Jon Stewart, but I grew up listening to NPR in the car. And I think actually what you do being live for that amount of time is more akin to like the radio.
Yeah.
Right?
No, absolutely. I describe what I do to people that are outside of the age range of understanding Twitch as basically Rush Limbaugh, but not evil, if that makes sense.
I said that to Samir.
Colin said that to me yesterday.
Yeah.
That when I listen to Hasan, it has the same rhythm as Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So in that context, like NPR was funded by, like it's public radio, so it's funded by people essentially donating, right?
Yes, I think there's a tax component.
I'm not a conservative, by the way, but to argue the other side, CNN reporting on the OKC bombing and Terrence Yeeke may suggest that they aren't a puppet of a secret conspiring elite. Check out the CNN article, Why Did This Cop Turn Up Dead? You know what we're going to study on? Oh, I should have already done this. I'm going to write this here for another note. This is what we're going to be. We're just going to read through all of this list of shit. That's my stream for this month, okay? You talk about a conspiring elite, okay? Like, and then you talk about Russiagate, and you talk about CNN and MSNBC. How about the fact that a sitting president managed to get legal counsel that was telling so many lies to the country about voter fraud and reaching out to other mainstream media outlet pundits to make them tell lies about it? And then those pundits, Tucker Carlson, told lies about it knowingly on the largest cable broadcast news in the country in order to help the president, I'm going to say win an election, but really steal an election, right? Like, this is one of the most ripe for conservative, to dwell on this for so long conspiratorially. But because it's involving conservatives, nobody cares. Andrew Tate, I bet if I were to bring up fucking Donna Brazil or whatever, I bet like Andrew Tate and Sneeko would be like, oh, the woman, was she the one for the DNC with Bernie? He might know about that. He had no idea About the Tucker Carlson stuff? How is that? Tucker did not do it knowingly? This is why I have this here to research this. Tucker Carlson, Dominion, Fox News suit. The messages that I saw made it look like he did know, that he was tired of towing this line and that he was privately arguing with Sidney Powell that there wasn't good evidence for this. Tucker Carlson, leaked texts, Sidney Powell. Destiny, read the comment again. I'm saying that the article suggests that they are not the propaganda wing of a secret conspiring elite. Dog, you don't understand. Just by you saying that, that's unhinged. I'm not giving you credit for being like, there's really strong evidence actually that Hillary isn't a secret lizard person. You don't get credit for that statement, right? Do you understand that? Like the default assumption is people are not part of a huge conspiring global elite without some kind of evidence being provided first, right? That's... Great show so far. I know that B script was wordy, but it came out great. It was awesome. Sidney Powell's lying. Fucking bitch. Jesus. I haven't even read these messages. It is top article in Mediaite. And also I sent it to Breitbart, Caller, Examiner, New York Times. Dude, nice job. In a text thread included in Tuesday's filings, the three hosts lamented that Fox's election decision desk director, Arnon Mishkin, made the call and bashed the color. Is this the one where they called Arizona? Oof. Is that what this is? Oh, yeah. Why not bring this up to conservatives, but remove political groups and names and see what they say? Then do the Scooby-Doo thing and remove the mask of it being Trump. I've thought about that. Yeah. It's hard to do it with the coup case. I'm sorry. It's hard to do it with the insurrection case, though, because, like, everything is so... It's so obvious, like, what I would be getting at. Would you approve? Like, as soon as I say that, like, their mind is gonna be like, wait a second. Is he trying to get me? On November 5th, in response to his producer, Alex Pfeiffer, who had written that, I really think many on our side are being reckless demagogues right now, Carlson wrote, of course they are. We're not going to follow them. The sun will rise tomorrow. We want to wake up intact. I always think that. In a message from November, Carlson texted a colleague that there was no doubt there was fraud in the election. But at this point, Trump and Lynn and Powell have so discredited their own case, and the rest of us to some extent, that it's infuriating, absolutely enrages me. And Tucker was referring to Lynn Wood, another Trump lawyer. In a text on November 9th, Carlson referenced Sidney Powell's Dominion claims, commenting, the software shit is absurd. Carlson then said on television that night, we don't know anything about the software that many say was rigged. We don't know. We ought to find out. Per Slate, around November 16th, Carlson texted a producer that Sidney Powell is lying, fucking bitch. He also called Powell an unguided missile, dangerous as hell, and a crazy person. Quote, Sidney Powell is lying, by the way. I caught her. It's insane, end quote. Like, if any of this was Democrats, you'd be losing your minds, right? If Anderson Cooper was saying that there was a Biden press secretary who was just telling lies all the time, but then Anderson Cooper was going on to CNN anyway and spreading those lies, you'd be losing your mind. But like, I think you guys just bury your head in the sand on this. I'm gonna make Michael Knowles. He needs to answer this. How do you feel about Tucker Carlson knowingly pushing false information, or they just do the Rhino thing where they just push like, oh, actually, well, he's not a real conservative anymore, and then they just ditch him and move on? Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Jesus.
Into it as well, like there's government grants, and then it's funded by donors and also ad revenue as well. And I think that like creates a conflict of interest in many instances, which they of course immediately will reveal. They'll be like, they'll do a story about Facebook, and then they'll be like, we're also funded by Meta.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, you know.
Conflict of interest is easily one of the stupidest. It's like one of the made for retard talking points. Like if somebody says like conflict of interest, like you, okay. Remember, there's a difference between like red flags or orange flags and like something being outright bad. A conflict of interest is a red flag, at least an orange flag, potentially a red flag, but it doesn't necessarily mean something is bad. You have to say more, right? If you say, well, there's a conflict of interest here, and then you do more digging, you should be more critical of something the conflict of interest exists, but then you do more digging and you find out, like, did this conflict of interest manifest in a way that was damaging to the credibility of whatever's being reported on? Then you can, then you say like, okay, well, this is a problem. But conflict of interest just gives you a place a direction to go. It doesn't necessarily discredit what's coming out. Otherwise, you could use conflict of interest to discredit anything you don't like, which is what they do. That's why when I'm arguing with somebody about Israel Palestine and I bring up any news agency that has anything related to Israel in the name, Times of Israel, Jerusalem Post, these are fake. That's fake. Obviously, it's fake. It's from Israel. Like, it would be the equivalent of, no, I can't even use that because conservatives would agree. It would be I was going to say it'd be the equivalent of arguing with some other somebody else in another country, and I'm like, okay, well, the New York Times, like, New York, the U.S. government published this, New York, but I guess conservatives actually do believe that in the United States. So,
Usually how it goes.
So outside of then that type of funding, like for you, that mix is funded by the people, right? So the people who watch you, they're funding you plus ad revenue.
Yes. So
what if there's no smoking gun, but the person leads in favor of the conflict of interest 75% of the time? I mean, they could just be right? You have to be able to do a factual analysis. Also, I don't think that you guys are the ones that should be tasked with that as well. I wouldn't expect an average person to like read through and scour all these fucking articles and all this shit, but we should. You should expect that of us, of people like Hasan or me or Tim Pool or Ben Shapiro or anybody else. Like, that should be the expectation, but none of these people do. Well, I shouldn't say that about the other people. I know Hasan doesn't read anything. I don't think Tim Pool reads anything. I was looking up Chevron stuff yesterday because I wanted to see if there were any horrendously off media takes. I watched that Michael Knowles video. Most of the people seem to have an accurate enough. Ricada seemed to have like an accurate enough assessment of what was going on. So
the largest chunk of my revenue comes from subscriptions. I think that is the most reliable, most sustainable.
Yeah, and then also someone in YouTube chat brought this up. It's a good point, right? We can't trust any of these media outlets because they all have the same owners. You're telling me that you can't trust what a journalist writes because of who owns the company that owns, like the Washington Post? So you don't trust anything from WAPO anymore because you think Jeff Bezos dictates to journalists what they write. That's what you think. You think Jeff Bezos, right? Now, maybe you're like, well, maybe Bezos doesn't dictate it directly, but like he'll make his will known, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, sure, fine. Let's say that pressure exists. How do you explain the fact that you work for a subsidiary of Amazon then? Because you work for Twitch and Twitch is owned by Jeff Bezos. So why would I trust your take when you say that the Washington Post is compromised because Bezos owns the company that publishes these articles, but you're not? Like, why would I believe one or the other? Now you're about, and then Hasan would give a whole bunch of reasons. Well, I'm independent because I don't have anybody looking directly over me and I can say what I want and I've got my own blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, why wouldn't this apply to any fucking journalist? These people are the biggest tweeters in the fucking world. Okay. These people run to social media anytime they're upset about anything. You're telling me that these people are all secretly being given marching orders and none of them have said anything about, like, come on. Yeah, I don't know. And to shift frame a bit and to reiterate, the reason why it's bad when people make these complaints is because there is problems with media reporting, and there are big problems right now with media bias, but I don't think it's because they're getting top-down orders. The problem is that our cultures have become incredibly exclusive to outsiders. So you're ending up with these media rooms, these editorial boards, all these staff that are all of a certain political opinion, and because of that, you're over-selecting for a certain type of idea or opinion. Two, you're over-selecting generally for certain industries. Like, you don't have people working in the military or whatever writing for the New York Times and shit anymore, which hurts. It damages the ability for you to report on things in a fair, honest, objective, unbiased manner. But but you can't even have that conversation. You can't talk about that because it's like, well, why does the New York Times or the Washington Post fuck up? Well, it's because Biden is telling them what to write. And it's like, well, okay.
Way of doing this business in general for someone like myself.
Yeah.
Because I don't want.
Is it the same case with Murdoch/Fox News? Doesn't he have quite a bit of pull in the GOP? If it was, here's what I would assume. If Fox News publishes things that Murdoch likes or agrees with, my guess would be that if you go to Fox News, that's probably the culture in their newsroom. I seriously doubt there's a bunch of people at Fox News like, fuck, like, I really don't want to have to publish this. My evil boss is making me publish these conservative things. A lot of people that work there probably lean conservative. That'd be my guess. Probably not as conservative as their viewer base just because they work in media and entertainment and shit, so they're probably slightly moderated, but most of them probably roughly agree with what's being published.
Want to be beholden to advertisers, and especially considering the way I do commentary and what I talk about in many instances, there's always going to be so much volatility if I'm hyper focused on ad revenue. But that doesn't mean that I don't have ad revenue. Of course, ad revenue has played even a larger role on Twitch because I think Twitch as a platform directed by Amazon wanted to generate more ad revenue because they saw that that was better overall. The splits were better for them, and they had a better way of basically they had too much inventory and not enough monetization on inventory. So they really made an effort to push for ads. So that is, that's something that I have to do as well, contractually obligated to do as well. And beyond that, there's sponsorships. They can be, multiple year-long sponsorships that are more holistic, like a brand partnership or a one-off. And for me, I spend most of my time, my manager, God bless him, he's great, spends most of his time basically telling people like, we're not going to work with you. But overall, I'll play like a video game every now and then, and that'll be sponsored. And
By the game.
yeah, by the developers, by the publisher.
Yeah, I mean, because the reality is, we're all in the business of being credible to our audiences, right? Like, that is the most important thing you can be as a creator.
Okay. I don't know what this is. Okay. This was this. This guy. Maybe we'll watch this later. Don't care about this. These guys are starting a new media company.
And what was the cause of this new venture?
Right.
Breaking Point's family news, which is Ryan is launching this morning, drop site. We've got a graphic for that. Go ahead and tell us, Ryan, what you were up to here and what was the cause of this new venture?
Yes, the headline here is that Jeremy Scahill, who you see up on the screen here, and I are leaving The Intercept. There'll be some other Intercept veterans who are joining us at this new venture that's dropsitenews.com. You can find it over there.
Any names you can tell us yet on the others?
Noska Renner, who is a deputy editor, she'll be joining us. The others still have to tell The Intercept.
Okay, so we'll let them play out that process.
We'll be rolling those out in the next couple of weeks. But you guys followed this as I was kind of running you through the whole saga. But it's been reported that there was a staff revolt about the direction that the new board and management were taking The Intercept. And as part of that, it was also reported that Jeremy and I tried to take The Intercept over. And in hindsight, it was kind of a crazy idea because we went to the board and we said, look, we've got funding, we've got a vision for The Intercept, and we propose that all of you on the board resign, go away, and turn it over to the journalists.
Yeah, boards don't normally agree to things like that.
They contemplated.
Got a little bit of experience with similar situations, so I think we understand.
Yeah. I'm not sure we even got a second for that motion, but in any event, they said no, thank you. But we realized at that point, if we could do it here, then we can do it elsewhere. And to me, it's extremely important, especially for the independent media ecosystem, that something like The Intercept exists, that you have to have an independent investigative news outlet that is able to punch above its weight, that is able to push back not just against politicians and expose what they're doing, but also the MSM, the New York Times. New York Times is so dominant now. They got rid of their ombudsman. The Post is barely competition at this point. There's nobody to check them. When I was reporting on some of their propaganda around.
He's talking about the fake rapes. He doesn't believe that any of the rapes probably happened on October 7th, by the way. Because there weren't enough rape, murder Invasion survivors.
October 7th, I was talking to a New York Times reporter who was there, who was like, who's going to check us? Like she had nowhere to go internally anymore to like, even, when they did Jason Blair, when there was that massive like scandal, they investigated it. A bunch of people got fired. Like it was a real problem. They like cared.
Was that Caliphate? Which scandal?
Yeah.
Which scandal was that?
Jason Blair was the
Also
guy who
Caliphate.
there was Caliphate.
Yeah.
But each successive scandal, like with the weapons of mass destruction, there were some consequences for people at the time. Some.
Yeah.
With Jason Blair, who was fabricating stuff,
Oh, that's right.
consequences. Caliphate, fewer consequences.
She still works there.
This time around, they got rid of a stringer.
Right.
But publicly, you can still change narratives, even if the Times is like going to dig in. Like, there's enough weight in independent media now that you can kind of push back in a serious way.
Yeah, well,
so we're building this as kind of a new intercept.
And
Wow.
you and Jeremy have such a track record and so much credibility. That's part of why I know this venture is going to be extremely successful. And you're so right.
Is it Scahill? This Jeremy guy, I think, was also one of the writers on. I think he was one of the writers on one of those stories about how the New York Times expose on the big rape stuff was horrible reporting. I believe he was one of the authors. I think he was in the byline, right? There were 3 journalists. I think it was Ryan Grimm, him, and I think it was one other person. It's pronounced Scahill? Okay.
Because, and I hope you guys will go to, dropsitenews.com and support this venture, because it is more difficult to do investigative journalism in the independent media space and have that work as a business model.
Right.
Because, sometimes you're engaged in an investigation and it doesn't work out. And then all of that work that you've done is for naught. And so you need people who...
Do you think they know what they did with the rape stuff? Are they evil? I don't know. But when you start citing people like the Gray Zone and Blumenthal, which I believe they did for at least one of their articles, and
who are invested in that long-term project of media, corporate, political...
what are the motivations to write that stuff? I don't know. I don't know for a lot of these people. I'm not sure. I wish I could get into their brains and check. Yeah, they cite the squirrel. I was just going to say, it reminded me of, it circles back to our bias talk. I remember one of the things they cited in one of those articles was there's a company called, is it the Middle East Observer? Is it the Middle East Eye? It's a or is it Media something? It's a pro-Israel like watchdog or something. And what they do is, if they feel like there's an article or a publisher that's like misrepresenting Israel, they'll send a notice in. They're like, hey, you got this wrong on this story. We think that this is not fair. And I remember they cited that in one of their articles. They're like, you can see how much influence Israel has on the media. And then they cite this thing, like, these people send things to everybody. And I guess if you read it, you don't think about it. Oh, memory? Maybe it's memory. Yeah. If you read it, you don't think about it for a microsecond. You're like, oh, wow, that sounds bad. But then it's like, well, hold on. Are the corrections that they're sending in true or false? Because, like, if let's say that all the corrections they send in are things that we would agree with, I mean, is that even a bad thing? Wouldn't we want people to be sending in corrections? Like, yeah, obviously they're looking out for their particular interest, but we'd expect that as well. And then we clicked through. I don't know if they made a particular reference or if I Googled to find the first thing that came up. But I think the first story that we found, or literally it might have been what they were referencing. Here was a place where memory changed how they talked about some soldier shooting something. There was a picture. God, this would be so much more powerful if I could remember the article, if anybody has it. There was a picture of a soldier shooting, and I think the caption was like, it was something like a soldier opens fire and fires into a crowd or something. It was something like that. But the soldier, you had no way of knowing this from the picture. The soldier was shooting, they were shooting beanbags. They weren't shooting live ammunition. But if you looked at the picture and the tagline, it looked like, oh shit, this guy's just like fucking, with an M16, like killing something. But they were shooting non-lethal rounds. I was like, okay, well, I feel like that's, whether it's good or bad, that's significantly different than the perception that I got from this picture. But fuck, I wish I could remember this original article. Wait. Was I doing debate prep notes yet? No, I don't think I was. Fuck. Yeah, it was like, but after looking at that correction, I'm like, this isn't a bad correction. I think like this is fine. That was during the college protest a little while ago too. Yeah, maybe. Dropsitenews.com. On the record with Hamas. In a Dropsite News exclusive, Hamas officials discussed their motivations, political objectives, and the human costs of their armed uprisings against Israel. This reality poses uncomfortable but ineluctable questions. Ineluctable? Whoa. Hello? Oh. Cute, okay.
Ineluctable.
Unable to be resisted or avoided. From Hamas's perspective, was Operation Al-Aqsa Flood a successful operation? Hamas undoubtedly knew that Israeli retaliation would include the killing of many Palestinian civilians, even if the horrific scale of Israel's assault was unforeseen. Was October 7th then a collective martyrdom operation launched without the consent of 2.3 million Palestinians? And for the many people who proclaim their support for the Palestinian cause but reflexively condemn the violence of the October 7th attacks, how can they realistically separate the two? Conducted a series of interviews with senior Hamas officials. This article is way too long. Fuck this. I don't have time to read this right now. None of what I read so far looks bad, though. That might be a good article. I'm not sure. If you actually are getting interviews with Hamas officials. But I don't have time to read this right now. Somebody said to add it to the blacklist. I wouldn't blacklist the site before like reading it and getting horrible information off of it. Oh, we're looking for this. Who is at fault here? I saw your debate with that shaggy-haired dude recently in which you had asked him if he looked into the amount of internal affairs cases and the success rate. I don't think he'd looked up anything. Read the Hurwitz article about the Hannibal Directive. I read it yesterday. There's not really anything new or compelling in there, except for one claim that somebody said that there was a communication to do Hannibal Directive, which would be I guess the strongest new claim that I've heard about that. Although I don't know how that communication went out. There's only one person that talked about it at all, but I don't know. Your haircut is damn goy.
תספורת של גוי של יהודי? גוי. תספורת שוקופניל, זה יהודי או גוי? גוי. בלורית, זה תספורת של יהודי או גוי? גוי. מכנסיים, צמודים כמו נקניקיה מסלוסי. זה גוי היהודי. זה גוי, שתי מקלות של מטאטא של סנוקר הולכות.
Why? What is this? How does info like that only come into existence 8 months after the fact? Yeah, I'm pretty sus. I seriously doubt there was like a media, or not a media. I seriously doubt there was like a comms that went out where it's like, Eric's crossing, Hannibal directive now. Like I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it seems unlikely that that would just be getting reported now.